Good evening. This is the January 23rd meeting of the Board of Directors of the MSAD 75, and it will now come to order. Before we begin roll call, I would like to remind everyone who wishes to speak during public comment tonight to sign up on the clipboard. Okay. And now if Becky can do the roll.
Bart Beatty,
Here.
Andy Began,
Present.
Holly Kavner,
Here.
Jessica Damon. Present. Tony Gonzalez.
Present.
Gregory Greenleaf,
Present.
Hudson Hayward,
Present.
and Mary Hobson is absent tonight. Haley Kulis,
Here.
Ryan Larson,
Here.
Jim Moulton,
Present.
Kim Pacelli,
Here.
Amy Spelke,
Here.
Frank Wright.
Present.
Both students are present. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we will consider action relative to additions and adjustments to the agenda. And it looks like we have one set of minutes added to item 4. Items 5.1 and 6.9 did not change, except they now have a new exhibit. And there is an amended exhibit for item 6.1, and we are going to table 6.6.
6.5. That was the 6.6?
It's 6.6. That was a
Aha.
typo on the agenda adjustments. But let me read it just so everyone's clear. We're going to table the board review of revisions to BEDB-R agenda format.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Everybody, thank you. And now we'll move on to public comment. And before we do, I'd like to remind everybody that public comment is governed by policy BEDH, and all speakers should begin their comments with their name and town of residence. Make sure their comments are addressed to the chair. Speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language, nor may they make personal attacks based on a protected class. Complaints or allegations concerning specific district students will not be allowed. During public comment, members of the public may not comment about an employee in either negative or positive manner. We ask you avoid duplication. It doesn't look like it'll be a problem tonight. And I would remind everybody to turn their phones off. And we have one person who has signed up, Alan. Come on up.
Good evening. Superintendent O'Leary. Appreciate your time tonight. First, my name is Alan Sarvinas. I live in Thompson.
That sounds like it's not.
Hello. Hello.
Oh.
That's me. Do you want this, Alan? You're just part of this.
Here, you can hear
Thank you, Andy.
you can hear some of it.
Get it started again.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So my name's Alan Sarvinas. I live in Topsom. Appreciate everybody's time tonight. First, as a citizen and a resident, I'm concerned about the rage room that is now existing across the street. I believe it's in too close proximity of the school. I think it's a terrible symbol for kids coming to school. I think it's terrible overall that adults become adults and have to go into a room and break things to satisfy their emotional needs. It's not an example for my kids. I don't want my kids to see it. And as you know, my kids don't go to this school, but if they did, I would be making probably even more noise. And I'll be at the town select board complaining to. Also, I'm the Director of Parents' Rights and Education here in Maine. And as recently, I'm sure everyone knows by now that the 2024 Title IX revisions no longer exist. They were deemed unconstitutional. And a lot of us here in other districts were told that the Title IX policies in school districts were being revised under that authority. And now that authority no longer exists, we would appreciate if there was a motion to rescind the yay votes for those policies and send it back to the policies that existed before. This is based on the essence of fairness and trust in the public to see the board when there are policies being revised for a reason, and that reason goes away, that the policies go back. Continuing to force these policies not only puts the schools at risk of legal challenges, but also undermines the fairness and integrity of the educational system. Title IX exists to protect equal opportunity, not to impose unconstitutional overreach. And I would greatly appreciate it if someone had the courage to motion to rescind those votes and get the process started. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We will move on to item 3.4, which is, no, 3.3, recognitions and acknowledgements. We don't have any. We don't have any for 3.4, but we do have 2 students to give reports for 3.5.
There we go, it's on. So I spoke with my fellow student senators of my grade, and we came up with a very brief list. First up, the auction is coming up. That's going to be for the junior class. Really big event. I wish I had more details like the date, but I don't. What I do know is that we've been working really hard and contacting businesses all across the area to collect food, a lot of gift cards, Wild Oats, Morning Glory donated. So that's been a process. And then we wouldn't be able to do it without the senior parent group that led it last year, because we, as a junior class, do not have a parent group, and they are really carrying us through this. So huge shout out to them. We had a chorus concert last night. It went well. The school musical is coming up on March 9th, 10th, and 11th. That'll be a huge event. It's Mamma Mia. Everybody should go to it. Please, we need money. And then it's midterm week. There was a swapped schedule. So they started with blue 3-4, red 3-4, and then today was red 1-2. I think I got that backwards, but end of day, and then end of week was the beginning of day classes. And I've heard from teachers that the Region 10 systems, and then as well as the support blocks, have been going really well. Students that need to show up for support blocks have been showing up, according to one person, but that's all.
Thank you.
I'll add to Ashby's comment that we did have a chorus concert last night, which went well, but also to update you guys, next weekend we are hosting the District 3 Music Festival. So there'll be some really lovely concerts Saturday afternoon on February 1st if you're available and want to go see some band and chorus concerts. And then the class of 2025, currently we're just working on continuing our prom planning. So more details to come in the next few months on that, but we're really excited about it.
Thank you. Is the band in that's over at the Orion?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone have any questions for the students? You can go. Go study, yeah. Okay, so next is item 4, the minutes. We have, we now have 4 sets of minutes with the addition of the January 16th workshop. It was distributed today. We can table those if we need to, but they're just one page and you may have had a chance to review them.
I was going to move that we approve all sets of minutes as a slate.
Moved and seconded to approve them as a slate. Any comments? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Old business, 5.1, the school calendar. And I believe I know, a draft was distributed with the agenda adjustments. Thank you, Dr. Hersey.
Hey. Hello. Yes, here we go. Yes, thank you. This is the first read for you all of the calendar. Just going to go through that process one more time if you're not familiar with that process. We coordinate with RSU 5 and Brunswick in Region 10. And it's our job to create a school calendar that has no more than 5 dissimilar days between those 3 districts. And we are there. So this is our first read. We do have a calendar committee in the district as well. Hudson is on that calendar committee along with 3 administrators from the elementary school, middle school, high school, a rep from the Teachers Association and the support staff, as well as a student. And this is the calendar that we have designed to date. There was a lot of conversation about starting before or after Labor Day. We did land obviously here on the draft is after Labor Day. I do want you to know that Dr. Hoffman was not at the calendar committee that we had met at. And after talking with him, graduation would likely be moved to the 14th. So anybody listening, don't book your plane tickets yet, because the next time I bring this back, graduation will likely be on the 14th. So happy to hear your questions or feedback. Yes.
I just had one quick question on the month of November, on the 4th, which is a professional day,
Yes.
with back-to-back kind of midweek days off.
Yeah.
Was there a discussion about that and the reasoning for the best option being?
Yes. So the best, that is election day. And we hold elections in Bowdoin, Bowdenham, Topsom, and Harpswell in the schools. And after having those elections in the schools for the past few years, the staff does provide feedback that it's a lot of traffic. And this year we did have a workshop day and it worked quite well.
Thank you.
Did you guys review any celestial events or anything that's supposed to be happening?
We actually did. Well, we gave Mr. Diedick that job and he did very well with that. And he came back and
They've
told
been
us
considered?
we're in the clear for any events next year.
And I was
You
going to
know,
add, as a participant in the committee, Mr. Didak and us were talking about thinking ahead a couple years, not necessarily having a finalized calendar, but being prepared for future events. And one thing that came out of that conversation that we talked about that I'll flag here is for the next school year, Labor Day is very late and we need to be prepared to be in school before Labor Day. It's the
Yes.
7th of September,
Yeah.
the year after next. So.
Figured since it's on the 1st.
Yeah, so just keep that in your mind for a year from now when we look at the next year's calendar.
But Christmas, this on this calendar is a good vacation time. It's 2 weeks. It's nice.
2 months, 2 weeks, yeah.
That's good feedback, Frank. Oh, that's good feedback because we did have a lot of discussion around that.
And so the process from here will be, you'll meet with your group again and you'll come back for a second read? Is
Yes,
this-
we will take this back to our district calendar committee. Thank you. We'll take this to our district calendar committee, and Brunswick and Freeport have their board meetings next week. So I will also be in contact with them to hear any feedback that their boards have given them. But I should be able to come back to our next board meeting for you to see the second
Be the
draft.
13th.
It'd be the second read, yes.
Yep. Okay. Hudson.
Quick comment that Amanda did that was great is we started the meeting schedule much earlier this year, which put us in a really good position because the first committee meeting, we really hashed out goals for the calendar. So Amanda was able to meet with the other districts and really have a firmed up idea of what we wanted. So I just wanted to say thank you, Amanda, for that. I thought that was a winning strategy.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. We don't vote on that, do we?
I don't think so. We do first read policies per our own policy, but I don't think we need to do vote on a first read for our calendar.
Okay. So speaking of policy, moving on to new business, item 6.1, to consider a first reading of proposed revisions to policy IIB, which are guidelines for class size and student-teacher ratios.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
So this was the one we had a revised exhibit, but just to go into the history on this one. So this is one we started looking at quite a while ago, had initial conversations about, we looked at comparative numbers from across the region. And broadly speaking, we were already well in line with other regional numbers. But we wanted to, make sure that our policy reflected what was happening in our schools now, what we wanted to be happening in our schools now. So Heidi worked with the principals some. She came back, worked more with the policy committee. We talked about it in regards to the budget. And overall, our takeaway was that there were very few changes needed to be made to the ratios. High school and middle school being exceptions because the way they were displayed was very different from the way it was displayed at the elementary level. There were good reasons for that, because obviously classes in middle school and high school do operate differently, but the committee felt, and I think Heidi would agree, that it was good to try to be consistent with the presentation so a member of the public, a student, a parent would understand what their class size expectations would look like in SAD 75. There were not a ton of radical changes made. Mostly we just updated that presentation. We did update some of the language. And then following a very helpful pointer from Frank after our agenda went out last week, we realized that the way we had displayed the pre-K numbers was not accurate. Even though we'd sort of discussed it in the proper context, the numbers didn't actually reflect that. So we did update the pre-K numbers, which are based on a 2-adult classroom, hence the 16:2 ratio. One of them is a teacher, one of them is a paraprofessional. Another thing we added is the idea of a paraprofessional being counted as a half of a teacher if they're part of the instructional program. That was not part of our policy beforehand. We saw that one of our neighboring districts, and we felt that that was not only helpful for us, but reflective of the value that a paraprofessional who's attached to an educational program can bring to a classroom, the attention and instruction. So additionally, we are recoding it. It's no longer a procedure, it's a full-on policy. So it will have a second read. We're recoding it to just stay in line with the NEPN standards. So that's that.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, just, could you guys provide a little clarity on directly, the paraprofessionals directly with the instructional program? Is that sort of like, versus a paraprofessional who is sort of one-on-one with another student?
Yeah, I believe it's like a full-time assigned to that classroom. Like this first grade classroom has Mrs. Brown and the teacher and Mr. Smith, the para, all the time in that room.
Gotcha. And it's not,
Versus someone going in and out or.
or somebody
Oh,
assigned to
one-on-one,
one of the
yeah.
students?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Good question.
Anything else? All in favor of the first read? Unanimous, thank you. We will move on to 6.2 to consider a first reading of proposed policy IJNDD, artificial intelligence use.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
This is a cool one. This is a new one that came out of the technology committee, which you guys may remember. Jim and I got appointed to this past summer, and that Amanda has been chairing. We had several meetings that were, I thought, really productive from the technology committee perspective. looking at a bunch of sample policies, thinking through what AI might mean to our district, and that evolved into a draft policy that the technology committee recommended go to the policy committee. And obviously I was in both. I was able to say, hey, policy committee is probably gonna wanna see X. And I can tell them what the technology committee said in this way. So it was a really good process, I think, that brought us. And I wanna say thank you to Amanda for drafting that, taking the responsibility as a singular person to draft that proposed policy. And you see it here. I tried to give a good explanation in the cover sheet. And I really sort of would say that really sort of says it. The technology committee wanted to identify some sort of top level guidelines on the use of AI. The staff is pretty hungry for this. They want this guidance so they can start professional developments. They can start really thinking about it and have some backup as they talk about the way it may or may not be used in the classroom. So the policy committee made a couple adjustments. We do have a question about specifically about the bullet point about staff having to cite all their use of AI. So we were hoping that policy committee could help maybe join the technology committee's next meeting and ask that question and have a conversation. But we felt that that was a simple enough point within the overall scope of the policy that we could address that between first and second read. And otherwise, here you go.
Any questions, comments? Bart?
Pretty active tonight, sorry.
No, it's your job.
Where I work, we have been working on an AI policy as well. And just when we think we have the policy the way we want it, we realize we don't, and we have to rework it. I will note that the original version of our policy was written by AI, truly.
Very meta.
Yep, I thought it was cool. But one of the things that we have kind of run into, and I don't know if this was discussed at all, is implementing some sort of AI monitoring application or service so that what these monitoring applications / services can do is really monitor how what data is being entered into AI applications, what AI applications are being accessed by students in a browser. There may be some that the school decides we don't want kids using these, or we don't want this type of information, names, date of birth, social security numbers, things like that, entered into these AI applications because they can be sucked into the large learning models, et cetera, et cetera. So there are services, they're not terribly expensive to monitor this type of thing. So it's just a thought.
So, and I'll see if Jim or Amanda want to add, but I'll sort of start with that. The tech committee did discuss that, and then the policy committee actually rediscussed some of those very points. And it's part of the reason that sort of guided this policy to be framed towards a lot of deployment questions, involving Nick and Amanda and principals more than students and teachers. They're involved, they're in the policy as well, but a lot of it is that higher level stuff. For exactly that reason, right? Procurement, data protection, things like that are really important. So that was very much a part of the conversation. Regarding the specifics of like monitoring software, I think that the technology committee, and I would agree the policy committee as well, didn't feel there was need to get into that level of nitty-gritty detail in the policy. There will be a procedure that comes from that tech committee to the policy committee to you guys that will have some more guidelines on like how to approach the use, but then there'll be a further set of granular rules that won't go through the board. That'll be like school rules and classroom rules. But yeah, I don't know, Jim, if you have anything you want to add to that.
I understand there is no technical solution to foundational human issues. So cheating is the big concern. The machine did the work versus me. That cannot be solved technically. I've been involved in this work long enough and seen efforts, and the kids will go underground. Adults will go underground when in a constrained environment. So I think, and one of the things I've brought up in the committee, the focus has been on moving this forward. There's been some urgency to have a document created. But there are tools rather than, because I think of what's the the turnitin.com. Do you know Turnitin? Are people aware of Turnitin.com, which is the idea that you submit student writing and it tells you, it comes back marked with a percentage of confidence that it's independent work, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that model, but I've suggested Yarmouth has moved ahead with a full district-wide implementation of Magic School, which is a K-12 school-focused, closed walls environment that is AI-driven, that has tools specifically. I'm not advocating for an adoption, but we have 12 miles down the road from here, an implementation. So to go see how it's going and to look more closely at that, if there were going to be any kind of effort to constrain, to try to scout. Number 11, the use of generative AI for coursework without teacher permission and guidance is not acceptable. There are pieces of this that's going to make them all rule breakers. We will have created de facto, because it's out there, that if we were to talk, it would be interesting. We have one of our student representatives, I don't know, the use of AI going on. So without teacher guidance and direction, bingo. And it's not restricted to our membership. If this moves forward with a statement that from this, because if this becomes policy, it's policy. And teachers are expected to provide staff. Number 4, staff will receive appropriate training. That is, it's unenforceable, is my concern, that as written, I don't think we're ready to do this, is my concern.
Thank you, Jim.
Holly. I just want to, number 10 in particular, concerned me a little bit in regards to the use as a personal tutor or a study aid. I'll just be transparent and say that I'm very concerned that this is a slippery slope. And I don't want us to lose out on the opportunities to continue to use our own brains and minds and our own creativeness without the usage of AI. I appreciate and respect the work that is done. I also am using it as work myself, but as a bolster to what I've already done. For example, I'm really wordy, no surprise anyone here, I'm sure, but it helps me be more concise and figure out how I can kind of shorten things up. I'm really concerned of it being used in a school setting, and I recognize it's already being done with or without us, and so we have to get something in place. I just need to speak out and say, on a baseline, it concerns me, and to bring it into the schools in this fashion, especially ethically, keeping in mind, using it ethically, making sure that those things are not being shared out, etc. I don't think there's going to be a lot of parameters, but like Jim said, I mean, there's just going to be so many things out of our control that I'm not ready to move forward with this at this point, just in general. So just sharing my concerns.
To respond in part, I think that if we're using digital software services, that risk is identical whether it's of data privacy, right? So like I personally, speaking for myself, I'm less concerned about an AI service harvesting our data because it's the same risk for all these services, which Nick is already engaging with, pretty heavily whenever we deploy any new service or software there. Again, those points are addressed in this policy because I think they're important points, but I don't know that an AI, that an AI service is uniquely vulnerable to harvesting the data. I think it can use the data very differently, obviously, and I think that's obviously scary. But I think that if we don't have confidence in our ability to use software services, that's a broader concern than just AI, I guess is what I would sort of say to that one little part, at least.
Gregory?
I use technology as a teacher, and I use school AI with students. And it's kind of like a different service from Magic School Bus. And I've done assignments where I've told AI to teach kids the vocabulary words as a formative to prepare. And the students would independently go on and do some vocab games, and I can see all the work that they've done. So I think the critical piece, though, is that school AI and all the districts in Maine require that these services sign student data privacy agreements. So there's a consortium, and teachers need to use the software or the services with vendors who have signed the contracts. So AI is just a tool. I mean, it's like, I still think we can have this conversation about, like, go back 100 years and say, kids are using calculators, and I think that's totally, people freaking out about that. So I think it's just more about student data privacy and to trust teachers to use the tools that can help students, especially there's some kids who have IEPs and it's very helpful. It can level the text for students, so they could have access to text that they might not be able to access because of reading disabilities. So it's a very powerful tool. So I just want to promote AI and think of it as a blessing that we're still trying to figure out. And my final point is that I think we're always going to be, whatever policy we make, we're always going to be behind because it's changing so fast.
Frank, and then Kim, and then back to Jim.
Yeah, I'm at a much more fundamental level. I don't like to see the possibility of alternative facts entering into the education of our children. And that is a major concern for me. It's not about the cheating. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about the fact that lies can enter in that can warp an education. And I have major concerns about that. And I see that coming through AI.
I do support getting something stood up here, and I'm thinking about the point that you made, Jim, and Holly, your point about number 10. It occurs to me that this list of 12 items in this draft are sort of, they're kind of high-level maxims or principles, right? They're not particularly specific. But number 10 is pretty specific with, I don't know if others read it that way. And for those of you, Hudson, Jim, Amanda, maybe who were part of the drafting of this on the ground floor, to Holly's point, is number 10, the one that speaks to tutoring applications or use for tutoring purposes. Is that something that would better belong like in a more organic guidance document rather than a board level policy? I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but that one does seem a little bit different than the other numbered elements on that list. So I don't know if I'm proposing an amendment or something like that, but more just a drafting question.
Oh, hold that amendment thought, and we'll
Okay.
get to Jim. Jim
Let
wanted
it
to
float
make
out there in the ether.
wanted to make a point, and we'll come back around.
I agree that the clarity, and again, number 4, staff will. I mean, will is a prescriptive word. It's done, not staff should, staff might. It is staff will receive appropriate training before implementing AI tools in the learning environment. I think it can be because of a lack, and I think back, Amanda, to the presentation both you and I sat in at the MSMA Fall Conference, the guy from Drummond Woodsum, who has offered to come speak. that there's this sense, and even those of us who use it, what it actually is. It's like electricity. You know, it's a functionality. It is not, whereas school AI, Magic School, et cetera, are confined applications. They are tools, and in industry, AI for a purpose, as opposed to just AI, to try to put boundaries around AI in general is going to be a difficult thing. And I go back to that it's unenforceable. And if I think back also, and again, having been part of this conversation, I guess as things came out of the committee and went on to policy, like rank ordering, you know, is there an order to these? And I would suggest that perhaps number 4 should be number 1 before anything staff will receive. That longer conversation, this is what it is. I'm going to plead ignorance. There was one, I believe, a faculty member at the high school who spent a year on special assignment with the department and did a lot around AI. I mean, we have resources within the district to talk to us, who has been involved not only with the Department of Education, but across the state, talking to different people about these things. So and I've been advocating it's a deeper conversation. And it is a deep conversation. Again, to go see whether and I would ask Gregory if I could, and am I allowed to in this conversation, or do I need to be talking to you?
You can ask
I would
me.
ask you to ask Gregory.
Yeah, I think
If school AI has been adopted district-wide, or is that an independent decision on your part?
Gregory, does your district have?
We had PD training on school AI, and it's free, and it, you know, it has bells and whistles that get paid for. So it's just, again, it's just teachers can use it. The main thing, again, is that they sign the data privacy agreement.
That's
And
it.
so that's the main thing, is that I don't know which teachers are using it, but I do know that student data is secure.
Yeah. Student privacy piece is handled through that contractual, and as Gregory, as you were mentioning, that through ACTEM and other consortia, the META, the Maine Educational Technology Directors Association, work to make sure that tools. So perhaps it's a more complex role of technology across the district. Educational technology, conversation, that it's time to move forward as well.
Holly?
Yes. So just a follow up. So I want to be really clear. I'm less concerned about the data. I know that is a concern. I'm more concerned, to Frank's point, about the ability to manipulate it and make it what someone else wants it to be, as opposed to what we want it to be. It gets to a point where potentially it gets out of our control, and our kids potentially are being taught, studied, you know, through this AI system, things that we're not even really sure or know of, like that we've approved of ahead of time. Again, it's so unknown, like it's really hard to kind of future plan this, but the slippery slope in my head is so concerned that we start with this and eventually AI takes over our teachers and we don't have teachers anymore, we just have AI. And so that's where my future brain is going, and that concern. And so I want to be really clear that I'm more concerned about the ability to manipulate it and to have kids contribute to it in a way that they can. I mean, my understanding is you can almost like teach it to be, you know, one horrible thing after another. You can mold it potentially. And so because it's still so ethically not, the internet itself is not really ethically kind of parameter. There's not a lot of really great ethical parameters there. And then you add AI into it, and it really gives a not great feeling in my stomach for the future of it all. So I get it. We're moving forward. We have to get something in place. And I still think there needs to be a lot of hesitancy and carefulness around implementing these things. I respect there's programs out there that are moving that way, but how moldable are those programs? How much influence could someone go in and add to it? Maybe there's a teacher who's disgruntled and starts teaching it bad things, et cetera. Is that possible? Is that something that?
Well, I would say that a teacher that's disgruntled could teach bad things just out of their own mouth. But I want to go to Ryan and then back to Gregory.
I don't think I have a lot new to say. I think I would just like to echo the fact, though, that I support the intent of this for sure. It feels to me like without folding in some kind of platform or a piece of that into this, like we're leaving ourselves open and exposed to almost approving and saying something's okay. It doesn't have enough guardrails on it to actually understand how to use it, I think is a concern I have. And that's where I think the identification of a platform that contains it for us to say, this is where you can use this and do this is maybe helpful. We've had that at my employer where we've had certain software things that we can use and things that we can, and then it's protected and such so that we can put information in there that we wouldn't want to be broadly share, but be able to work with that information and understand that it's protected and safe still. So I think for me, that's, in looking at this, I think we're headed in a really, really good direction, but having that platform identified that here's where we say it's okay, and kind of a lot of what Gregory is saying, here's where you can go do this, and we're condoning it. Without that, it makes me a little nervous.
I might want to come up and speak to that specifically.
I'll have Gregory give his point.
So I think it's just to be clear that having worked with these programs that are for school, the AI is for school, the developers, it's not like going onto ChatGPT and it's wide open. These developers have trained these modules and they've also given them limitations. They won't, like, if I said, hey, please build me a bomb, it won't go there. So they're built for school, they're built for students, built for the education. So the world with ChatGPT is something that I can't monitor kids, if they want to go on, but teachers with the training aren't going to go to services like ChatGPT. They're going to go to Magic School Bus or School AI, who have been developed for schools.
Real quick.
Yeah, just real quick. One of the things that I think we might, listening to these comments, integrate into this is that only approved AI applications, websites, whatever, can be used. It's along the lines of what you were saying, Ryan. I know that's a piece in our policy. It's not just, because this doesn't say that. So a teacher could be using ChatGPT, which is an open AI, and they could, information could be plugged into there. Because even though they sign a form that says, I won't share any information, hey, maybe if I just plug everybody's names into this, it can sort this for me and spit this out. We also tell people not to click on links in phishing emails. They do that, right? So you can't really trust the human totally to not violate policies. But I do think I do think putting some guardrails.
Just really quickly, something Amanda might be able to speak to is a board policy the place for that, right? Like this, and again, I don't know the answer. This policy makes, reference to procurement and decisions and security. School rules could easily say only after Nick Riggi is signed off, right? I don't know how much, my question, I guess, is how much that needs to be in the policy that we're passing versus the rules the schools, the superintendent are implementing at their level.
Good question. Did you have something you wanted to?
No, I want,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for this conversation. It's really why we were hoping to move a policy forward, was just to get some of this feedback and some of those questions out, because it's questions all of our educators and parents and myself and Nick are having. One thing that, or a few things that haven't been brought forward with this policy is that there's the committee or the task force has been actually talking about 3 layers of a policy, procedure, and practices. And we probably should bring those forward with the next read after we. Yes. So I think that, Kim, some of your points about putting that into a procedure or practice is something that the task force should consider. And the task force hasn't yet seen this, but I do intend to bring it to the task force, some presentations around these platforms that are meant to be for schools, at school, magic school, school AI. There's another one that we're thinking about, but it feels responsible to have that also come to you at the same time with some pretty, I would say, deep presentation models at CIA. And then again, for the board, if you choose, there are PD modules built into those platforms, which is also another way to monitor that so that we know our teachers are receiving that PD. But it is moving fast. And I would agree that having some of that nitty gritty in the policy might hold us up from keeping up with it. But if that's in the procedure or the practices, then we can keep up with it a little faster. But we are being really thoughtful, and as far as student privacy agreements, sometimes there are some frustrations with our teachers because we slow that way down so that those measures are in place, but we're really mindful of that and keeping parameters and barriers around that use. So there's more to come, but this feedback is really helpful for us to consider and will help us be able to make some decisions with that as well.
And then regarding, as I drop my pen, some concerns about the enforceability and or PD aspect of it. One thing that the board could do is we could make this go into effect on July 1st. Right? This could be, we pass it, it's at its second read or whatever, we adopt it. But not unlike when we did ACAAA, 2 months, we passed it and we said it was gonna go into effect in February, that Heidi had time to do PD with staff. We could, if the board wanted that, if you thought that was helpful, that's an option to this board, right? To sort of target a date, you'd know what the text is, it'd be finalized, but you'd have time to get your ducks in a row ahead of those lines. Jim, I don't know if that's at all helpful for some of your concerns, but just putting it out there as an option.
Gregory?
One final point is that the students use Google platform. We have the Drive and we have slides, but if you went to the waffle, you'll see that Gemini's there, just waiting. So it's integrated already into our system. Students have access to Gemini, but again, it's in Google doesn't use student data because they've signed the agreement that it's in this ecosystem. So it's just right there is Gemini all the time.
We have not turned Gemini on for our students yet. We have not. Actually, I'm going to say that, and then if I'm wrong, Nick's going to come running out. But we have not turned it on for our students yet.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
And just to build on that though, they have access to literally anything at home, right?
Right.
On their home device, we get no say.
Anyone who hasn't spoken who wants to give any thoughts on AI? Okay. I feel like we've heard a lot of great feedback. I know you've heard it, policy committee. I know you've heard it, Amanda. But like has been said multiple times, it's already here, and we do owe our teachers and students a policy. So I would propose we vote on the first read and trust the policy committee is going to take their time with the procedures and bring back to us something that addresses these concerns. Jim?
So if the first read is the first read, we will vote to accept it as a first read. it, there have been significant suggestions, not just for procedures for a different document, but for this document to have some significant work done to it as well.
Right, and I mean, I'll look at the policy committee. You have 6 weeks, I think, to get.
Yeah, or maybe it's 8. I can't remember, it's 6 or 8, but yeah,
Or 8.
regardless, we,
So it
we,
doesn't have to be next time.
and yeah, so, and to better inform. I think it's the same day as the policy committee meeting we have
We should
February.
schedule a workshop
We can also do that for sure,
for the whole board.
for sure. Yeah, so to accept the first read does not mean changes can't be made, significant or minor. It does put a clock on when the second read would need to be done before we'd have to bring it back for another first read.
8 weeks. Thank you. Right.
And to accept to the first read makes clear to the district as a whole that motion has begun, that there's a codification of concern and interest in the
Right.
topic.
And it's still, if we don't like the second read, we can vote that one down and send them back
Sure.
again.
Understood.
I think you got a lot of feedback here tonight. Okay, Holly? one more thing?
Just a clarifying question. So if this goes into policy, does that mean that we can start using?
No, well,
Is this just, I'm trying to figure out what
So
the first read means.
this means that it's been acknowledged, we've read it, we saw it, but it will not be policy until it comes back for a second read and we vote on it. And at that time, then it will become policy.
Okay, thank you.
We can set the date.
It can be.
Thanks, everybody. That was really good.
You got, are you ready? Okay, so all in favor of accepting the first read? That looks like everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda and the policy committee and everyone else who's trying to nail Jello to the wall on that policy. We will move on to consider a first reading of policy JICC, school bus conduct.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
So yes, we brought this for a first read a few meetings ago and we sent it back to committee. The committee had a really good meeting. We had a couple members of the board come and join the conversation. We tried to zero in on the feedback we got from that meeting and think beyond that feedback, what else needed to get integrated. And I think we landed in a pretty good place. I would sort of say again, as I said last time, we do expect this to be a policy that is looked at again sooner rather than later once we get further guidance on the use of personal technology by students, right? Like we know that work is coming, but we didn't want to wait on some of the things that we felt were still important to pass in the meantime. So I would fully expect us to look at this policy again in 6 to 12 months. So I don't want to be surprised if that's the case. That's sort of baked into the plan. Policy committee, if you have anything to add, please feel free to. But that's sort of the gist. I think we landed in a pretty good place, and I do believe we addressed all the concerns that we got, and we made it even better beyond that. So.
Any comments or questions? Right, let's vote then. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you for doing that work.
Thank you to the board for the feedback.
Gosh, keep going with policy. We are going to consider a first reading of proposed revisions to policy GCFB, recruiting and hiring of administrative staff.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
This is a pretty straightforward one. This is updating our policy to include language from the MSMA sample and sort of get it cleaned up with state law. Nothing too crazy, mostly with this is one of the ones you might remember 18 months ago, we did a big update on policies to include the new language around protected classes in the state of Maine, and this policy got missed, and we have caught it up. And when we bring it to second read, we'll have the accompanying procedure come as well.
Any questions? All in favor? Everyone, thank you. This is what's wrong with onboard and when it sends you.
So it logs you out?
well, I have it on paper here. So we will move on to 6.5, to consider a first reading of proposed revisions to policy BCA, Board Member Code of Ethics.
So moved.
Second.
This is sort of my favorite one for tonight, actually. Because I think there's some really good work happened here. So as you may remember, as we sort of think about the acknowledgement and expanded use of devices during a meeting, right? Devices were already part of some meetings, but we're moving in a direction that's going to be more standardized. At our workshop, we talked about wanting to establish some expectations of conduct for board members during meetings. At our meeting, the policy committee meeting where we talked about this, conversation was great. Got really good feedback on we did not need a full policy to accomplish this, but that with some adjustments to our code of ethics, we could accomplish that. And so Kim did some really good wordsmithing that we reviewed in the committee, and we are happy to bring it here to you tonight.
Does anyone have any comments or questions?
About time.
I told you it's my favorite.
All those in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. 6.6 has been tabled. So we will move on to 6.7, to consider approval of a proposal for a stipended position of robotics and coding club director at Williams Cone School.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Heidi, do you want to present that one?
Okay, so Brem, the principal at Williams Cone School, put forth a robotics and coding club director, and it's really dedicated, this position, really, the rationale is dedicated to providing direction, time, space, and challenges for students to explore coding and robotics in a deeper way than class time allows. They'll have the opportunity to do Lego Spike Essentials robotics kits, Sphero, Indy, or Bolt robots, or various approved coding apps such as the locally installed version of Scratch or Scratch Junior. That is a lot of stuff. And so we met with at about 20 to 25 students, and it's a per 6-week session. And we met with the union and our Amy, and it was determined that for a full year, it would be 4%, but this category is 3%. And it's only for a half year, and it would fall under the 2% stipend. And so we really just need your approval to do so.
And for reference, it's a similar stipend to, for example, the Lego Club or some of the other weekly meeting clubs at the elementary schools. Jim?
Do you know, is there a teacher on staff who is?
I believe so. I haven't actually asked who the teacher would be, but yes, I think that's why they put it forward, because they're ready to go with it.
Do you mean, will the person that teaches this be a teacher from Williams Cone?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Which offers wonderful examples, not only for the kids to become advocates, but a skunk works of sorts for people to see. People need to see models of integration, not just read or hear or be told about.
Hudson.
And I presume this will just be part of the sort of the current stipend approach of buckets per school and fit within that bucket.
It is, yeah.
Excellent.
That's why it's
Yeah,
similar to the other one.
just double checking,
Yep.
not doubted.
Yeah, Jessica.
Follow on to what you just said, I think. So it's already budgeted. It's in a 2% stipend, but can somebody just catch me up on what that exactly means?
So it's already budgeted, the school, in the teacher's contract, each school has a pot of money they can spend, which had been determined by contract. So it's in the contract, it's in the budget, to give the principals leeway to decide how they want to basically do extracurriculars. So most of them, or they've used it for things like the chorus, the play, the talent show, Lego Club, and they're free to design whatever club there's interest in. And it's 2% of the first year teacher's base salary is what the stipend is. So each year, as the base salary increases, it's 2% of a slightly different number. And then I believe if you have the same stipend position for it's some number of years, there's a small bonus, a longevity. But it all has to fit within that school's pot. So principals can spread it out.
We meet at the beginning of the year and determine the buckets. And so we have a association meeting and myself and Ryan and Amy did so. And then we determine like how much based on longevity and all the numbers and that current year's salary requirements of what the buckets will be based on a certain number of students.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Next, we will go to 6.8 to consider general appointments to board committees. We have this on the agenda because typically those are done in the summer, but we realized when we were putting together the master schedule for the school board, for the school calendar, that typically there's some people coming and going after July, so sort of made this a fixed item on our annual calendar. And I would like to make a motion to have Jessica join the policy committee and Tony join the transportation and facilities committees.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And the floor is open if anyone wants to make any other motions for committees. Seeing none, we will move along. Thank you. So we'll work with Becky to get you on the distribution list for those committees, and yeah, that's about it. That's the extent of the preparation. All right, so I asked for item 6.9, and I'm excited to hear from Dr. Hersey. We have in the last 2 or 3 years made some changes to how we fund and deliver professional development of teachers. We tried some different things, and I know it will be part of the next budget coming up. So I'd like to hear. I know we all would like to hear what is working and what other ideas you might have.
Thank you for asking about this. And we're always hoping that teachers do provide us that feedback. What Amy is referring to is that 2 years ago, we added a framework for teacher champions to be part of our professional development framework. So this document that you have in front of you right now kind of captures our approach to using in-house expertise as well as finding the experts outside of our district and bringing them in. So we're trying to make sure that we are capturing the practical application of learning in our classrooms that happens really well when you have people on site that can model that, mentor that. So the first part of the first page of this document offers a summary on the work that our teacher champions have done to date. And then the second page is a little bit of insight on the contracted professionals that we've also been working with. The teacher champion outline gives you a little bit of insight into the workshops that our teacher champions have delivered, and then the number of teachers that we've had participating in those workshops. The second part of that document summarizes the outside external professional development that we have offered to our teachers in almost a sanctioned, like a district sanctioned way. We are supporting this. It does not capture everything that our teachers are doing outside of the district. We do have ACTM workshops that teachers have attended. Our health and PE teachers have an organization that they attend every year, but it's a little bit of an update and a nice snapshot of how we've been honoring the work of our internal experts and then bringing other experts in as well. Questions?
I have a quick one to start. You may not know the answer to this, but do you have a sense of whether this is the same group of 16 teachers who are taking advantage of all of the PD, or is it sort of everybody's kind of doing one and most people are finding something? Do you have any sense?
You mean,
that?
are you asking, is it the same group of teacher champions who are
No,
always
like the
delivering it?
people who go to these, people who are getting trained.
Yeah, I think we have a nice variety. I really do. And that's been part of our work, is to try to broaden out the audience that we are offering PD to. You, hopefully, if this document doesn't clarify that, I can definitely answer some questions, but with the teacher champion kind of bulleted items, you see that we have offerings at the high school, we have offerings at the middle school, we have offerings at the elementary schools, and then we've even been able to offer some paraprofessional training, which we haven't done in a while, and the paraprofessionals who attended that session said this is the best professional development we've received in years. And the flip side of that, with the contracted professional development opportunities, we've really we've tried to look for a very wide net that we're throwing on that. So the letters course is specifically for K-3 teachers. The Aspire course is for 4th and up teachers. The regulated classroom training is district-wide. The micro credentials, as you can see there, that was also district-wide. And the new Rocket PD model, we are very excited about. And this is kind of the first unveiling of that. Some of our teachers don't know about that yet, but that is meant to be teachers, administrators, all staff as well. So that's going to be rolling out soon. So I think we're doing, I'd love to hear from our staff, but we are trying to make sure that we are capturing everybody's needs for growth and development.
I was going to say, I think as a board member, it's great seeing sort of the list of what's happening. Because over the couple of years I've been here, I've heard about some of these a little bit here and there, but seeing it all put together is really great. So thank you for coming tonight, for my opinion.
Ryan, did you ever hear it? No, sorry. Jim.
The district-wide training in having everybody move together is a critical piece. And so interested to see, and the classic relationships and the emotional well-being before learning can happen. Kids need to have something to eat and they need to know that they're in a safe and supported environment. But that critical importance, are there any other, I mean, with literacy, the big dog being literacy and numeracy, and there are, but there are also, we've heard in the CIA committee, efforts underway in literacy that are grade level, perhaps not across the entire district, but specific. The value and the importance of those, and also more informal, are principals encouraged to encourage teachers to go next door and visit?
I don't want to speak for every one of our principals, but yes. Another part of the professional development that our principals have worked, our K-5 principals have worked really hard to pull together this year is that one Wednesday a month, they have job alike PLCs, and all the grade levels come together just for that purpose. Our phys ed teachers, occupational therapists who don't often get to see each other, they are all coming together too. So we are trying to create that space for those conversations because they are important, and the teachers say loud and clear, we want time with our peers. We want time with our peers. And so we've worked really hard to do that.
Oh, is it okay for me to say something? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Do you want to plug the STEM?
I do want to plug the STEM night. Yes. So next Thursday, you will see this on the Teacher Champion, one of the bulleted items on the Teacher Champion, where we have 8 staff, but bigger and broader and amazing is that we are offering our first community family STEM night. And this is being kind of spearheaded by Dr. Hoffman, Corey Calderwood, and Doug Ware, it's part of the Workforce Ready grant that we're part of. And so in terms of professional development, we are inviting Brunswick, Freeport, Richmond, and Bath, all of their teachers in for that night. But we are also inviting all families, students of all ages, pre-K to adult. We'll have something there that night. So if you haven't received the Parent Square notice, I want to bring the QR code, and not everybody likes QR codes, but we do have a great QR code. It will take you to a website that's being designed just for STEM night, and our teachers will be there and using the students and visitors that come to show how STEM can be used in the classroom. We have a number of local businesses coming to also show students how STEM can be a part of their day and potential career. So I'm going to pass that around just in case you haven't had a chance to take a snapshot of that QR code. But it's going to be a great night. If we have people listening, bring everybody out. It's the same night of our basketball game. And the Woodside One-Wheelers are going to show how they use STEM to be as amazing as they are. So they're going to be here. We have some outside collaborators of ours within the Workforce Ready program. They're coming with some robotic materials. We're going to have a lot of 3D printing. Hopefully everybody's going to be able to leave with a little 3D printed character, I think, maybe an eagle. I'm not sure. I don't really know much about that, but I will learn on Thursday night. So please all come out and bring all your
1 week
kids.
from tonight.
1 week from tonight, right here at the high school, 4 to 7, and it's an open house. You can come and go. You can watch the basketball game, go for halftime, see the Woodside One-Wheelers, and then they are creating a punch card where if students are able to go through all of the activities and receive their punch card, they receive a prize. And we're giving out vouchers for the Snack Shack, I believe. It's going to be a great night. So I'm going to leave these and you can circulate them. And it highlights our teacher champions because they will also be here. Thank you, Heidi, for letting me plug that.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments? Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and humoring me. Next, we will consider action to approve an out-of-the-country trip to Spain by grades 9 through 12 Spanish students from April 16th, 2026 to April 26th, 2026.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anyone questions or comments about that? Heidi, anything you wanted?
No, it sounds like a really amazing trip. We had hosted some Spanish students in October. And so our students now will travel to Spain and attend school and be hosted by their exchange students there. So it's really a full student exchange where MTA students got to participate in both October and April. So it's quite a trip.
Cool. Yes, Jessica.
Is this also through the EF tours? Heidi, do you know?
No.
Stay on here.
Nope.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my son did this once before, and it's a direct exchange with a school in Spain. And so we hosted a child, and in turn, that family hosted my son. So it was a really good thing, and it was a direct thing.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Now we've made it to section 7, committee reports and board chairs report. So for my board chairs report, I'm making an announcement that starting February 13th, our next board meeting, we will be using Onboard at the meeting, and you'll receive your packet that way. We can do both. Hudson, did you say? Right. I mean, anyone could print it. Yeah. But so we're going to try it. We're going to do it. We had originally hoped to be able to roll it out at the same time as we gave everyone a device. We still want to be able to give everyone a device, but we're not quite ready with that. So if anyone needs a device, let me know. We'll work. We haven't some that we can provide for people to use, but otherwise, if you don't mind using your own. For now, so far, those of us who have been using it have not had it hasn't done anything weird to our computers, or we haven't needed a lot of technical support. Hudson's pretty good at it. Speaking of that, if you feel like you want any more instruction or review or anything on board, let me know. We'll set up one-on-one with Hudson or groups or however you want to do it. So I'm really excited. We're moving forward with this. Some of us have been practicing. It's pretty slick, and we will not expect perfection the first time through, or even the second time through, but we're going to try it. And I thank Hudson for getting us this far. And the other thing I wanted to say, it's on the
Amy.
schedule. Oh, yeah.
Just real quick, is this just for board meetings or is it for committee meetings as well?
It is just for board meetings, but committees are welcome to use it.
Okay.
It's not required for the committees, but you're welcome to use it.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. One other question. Once you have the ability to give us devices, do we have to take it? Because the last thing I want is another device.
I don't think you have to, no.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jim, did you have your?
No, I just shared, and perhaps it's only because the CIA committee meets just prior to board meetings. But Hudson, the agenda and the artifacts get sent through the mail, but having them in there, it's an amazingly fluid and effective tool. I've seen a lot of tools. This is pretty straightforward.
I didn't think it. This is done good.
Yeah.
I brought it forward and said, this is what I want.
Yep.
Frank, did you have your hand up?
And if we don't want to use it?
You can get a paper copy. I mean, you can print from the app, right?
Yeah. So the paper workflow is you can download a PDF yourself of the book with the agenda and then print it to paper if you'd like, however you'd like. I don't know what your guys' conversations are about providing paper copies. That's sort of beyond my remit.
Talk to me.
but-
If you want, you can work something out. Yes.
What I would describe, broadly speaking, we're talking about is digital first, right? It's not digital only, it's digital first. So instead of preparing a paper agenda, instead of retrofitting it, the idea is preparing a digital agenda that can then, of course, move to paper as well. So it's not that like paper will never be seen again. It's sort of just like, what are you optimizing?
But one cool thing is when we do adjustments, it'll just be there. Yes.
I just touched the square with the arrow out, and it will print. This document we're looking at today is a 90-page document.
Yes. There's a copy of it, right?
It is a significant piece, and the flexibility. If there isn't anyone to take advantage of Hudson's willingness to provide personalized professional development is wonderful, but it begins, which I know it will, Hudson, it begins with why it makes sense. Your mention of its ability to integrate changes, the arrival of that revised piece to keep again, I just say highly effective. Frank, begin with purpose. Don't feel forced, but your commitment to the work of this, to make you a more effective, there's no way to make you more passionate. But if there is a way to help your passion become more effective, I would encourage you to spend some time with Hudson. I'm done.
Hudson's like the teacher champion of onboard, pretty much.
Yes. And he brings enthusiasm to anything he does. I also wanted, it's on the schedule, but I wanted to put in a plug for our February 6th workshop. We'll be with Aurora Laura again. The last one was great. I'm hoping to see, she's done a lot of work since then, so there should be a lot for us to review. And that brings me to an update from Hudson Hayward on the January 13th regional MSBA meeting and MSBA Board of Directors meeting.
And I'm going to add my legislative committee meetings for the MSBA as well, just for fun. Working chronologically, the MSBA Board of Directors meeting was my first, having now been elected to a 3-year term elected to a 3-year, voted in, I'm not sure. It's the board picks their own people, right? It's not voters. Regardless, first of my meeting, it was great. The Education Commissioner Macon was there, and so she presented on some of the Maine Loves public school work that I know Jim was involved with, and that is a very important focus of the work of the department. It was great hearing about that. We really enjoyed some one-on-one time with her, talking to her about stuff, and I did talk about budget stuff because I always talk about budget stuff. So I did do that. But it was great. She was wonderful, great meeting. We also had a conversation about some the directives that the board had asked their members to get from their superintendent, some data about like special education services, things like that. So they're going to be speaking with like our legislators to the federal government. And so they Heidi helped me collect data they'd requested about, special education costs and enrollment and things like that, because they want to make sure they've got good, solid data to talk to them about as they think about what some of the big federal issues might be upcoming. So it was really good, really productive there. The regional meeting, it was great. I having the ear of the larger board, I was able to say, hey, you always schedule our region's meetings the night of our board meeting. So they moved it for us, which was great. So we were able to go.
Now we have to go.
And that presented to the regional board members a lot of the same Maine Loves Public Schools work, and talked about the new legislative dashboard that they've sort of got set up on the MSBA website that I encourage everybody to go to. Where they sort of give some direct information on how to advocate for your district, stuff that this board may in fact look at as we craft some of our own advocacy. But it's a really supportive document about advocacy in general and provides a link to what the MSBA's positions on upcoming legislation is. And that segues right into my work on the legislative committee, which has been great. We've met 3 times so far. And from that, if you go to the MSBA website and you go to the legislative and government relations page, you'll see a link to the legislative committee's position on bills. And so it's great. We've been talking about the bills that might affect education in some way or another, and what the MSBA and the committee determines what the MSBA position is. And I've really appreciated serving on that committee because, as you guys know, I've gotten sort of hot to trot about advocacy on behalf of our board, and that's not what I'm doing there. I'm advocating on behalf of the MSBA, but obviously I am always myself. And I bring our experiences here to bear there. So it's really good to sort of have conversations with the other board members about what the impact of bills may or may not be. And so yeah, it's some really good stuff. Legislative session's obviously just beginning, but there'll be a lot more to come there as it goes on. So yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Kim.
Hudson, I was poking around here while you were talking, and it looks like these dashboards are behind
Yes.
sign in. Do you have information about how?
So I believe I do. And so yeah, there's the There's the page, which is open to everybody and has got a lot of the advocacy information. There's the dashboard, which is a little more focused. I do have information that I can give. They don't want that being shared too widely, but I can definitely help people
Okay.
get into that.
Well, I was also prepared for you to tell me that there was something in my email that I hadn't yet.
It's not yet in the email,
Okay.
and then the legislative committee position document does not require a password either. So you can sort of get to 2 out of the 3 things sans password here. But yeah, it's good. And there's actually a little video we put together by our legislative aide. It's actually quite good about advocacy. So like I said, there's a lot of good stuff, I think, for all board members to take a look at and expose themselves to. And I know that some of the things we've been talking about in finance committee or here, are also relevant to this. So it was really good.
Thank you. So the next item is January 8th and 22nd meeting of the Personal Technology Study Group. I'm not sure who's ready to, Jim? Who's ready to talk on it?
Jessica and I have been part of that. Chris Hoffman was planning to be here tonight. He's taken ill and cannot be here. Jessica, may I? We've received an email with 3 bullet points he wanted us to know. The committee's met 3 times, 4/19 December, January 8th. Was planning to meet on January 22nd, but because of some schedule conflicts has been pushed ahead till next week, January 29th. The agendas, I'd be happy to share, but it's been a conversation. One of the big focal points was to prepare questions for the surveys, which have gone out, parent, staff, and student. As of this writing, this was Chris's email at 4:48 today, 380 students. It went out yesterday, I believe today's 23rd, 22nd. 380 students, 144 staff, and 285 parents have responded to the survey. So a positive note. A group of 4 people visited Morris High School on Friday, January 10th, to see how their work was going with the Yonder pouch system. That the group plans to review at our next meeting, January 29th, the preliminary survey data, debrief the visit to Morris, and begin to discuss recommendations based on the shared learning. There may be more meetings still, but should be, Chris assures the full board, should be ready to offer a preliminary full report to the board very soon. As I understand, February was the requested delivery date for that, and Chris feels confident he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and just to speak to that date, that was sort of based on the policy committee's meeting with Dr. Hoffman about what a process might look like. And I think we were just talking about looking at RSU1, again, which just did this, and what their sort of timeline and reporting was. So that's sort of, for anyone who's curious, that's where that February date came from. It's like, okay, cool, there was a time in February or early March when RSU1 did a presentation. Let's try to do something similar just so the board has a similar amount of time to absorb data.
Thank you.
Nope. And Kim?
Jim and others, is it possible to get I know that a work of your group has been just doing some reading and getting into some of the literature underlying these issues. And for those of us who want to catch up and maybe do some of that, even though we couldn't necessarily commit to the committee, is it possible to get some of those articles circulated or something? Maybe some of the best, some of the ones that you have found to be particularly helpful and compelling.
Sure, Jessica, I don't know about you, I would not suggest that I could pick and choose between them, but Chris has done a great job of, while bringing printed copies to the meetings, each agenda has direct links to the content that's being shared. Hudson, if I were to pass those along, what's the best way to get those?
Put them
Amy,
in
I pass
Onboard and
those.
then we'd have access to them, or?
We'll look at that, but you can.
Amy, I'm going to pass the
figure it out.
agendas
Or a
to
good
you.
old fashioned email could work too. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
It'll come through Amy.
Yep.
To build off that asterisk, I think what we can do moving forward is we can attach the agendas for committees that are having reports into Onboard. And so in that context, it would already have been there.
I just know I want to catch up to some of the committee's work and do it before the proposal comes to the board. Yeah. Good, thank you.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm in some of my circles. There have been some questions, is there data from other schools and how it's working? And the committee's probably working on that stuff as well, I assume. But the parents don't know yet, what's the concerns or access to reach their kids for appointments and things and whatever. And, how's the Yonder pouch working and all that. So I don't know if you have any input on that specifically yet, or if it's too early.
I would only say the visit to Morris was illuminating. To actually go and visit, and again, cycles back to my suggestion that a visit to Yarmouth to see Magic School, or perhaps to come to your school, to seeing, being there where it's working and talking with district leadership, teachers, principal, and learners about the impact. So that will be coming, that they have had positive impact, certainly at Morse.
Yeah.
I would hesitate to give a full report on that. I know Chris will include that in the report that he gives. But that visit was, and I've got to say, Katie Joseph, the assistant superintendent who has been the champion, and I have no hesitation, she told us that she would she feels as a champion of what she has seen as a result of the program.
Okay. Hudson.
Add that I believe she gave a presentation to the RSU1 board at a meeting. I watched some of, via the recordings. I think that's available if you're curious about RSU1's experience directly.
Right, and that would have been 1 year ago, so.
Well, I think more recently she got
Oh,
up
she
there
did another one, okay.
But yes, the original.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that report next month. Next item is the January 10th Drummond Woodsum Collective Bargaining Workshop. I can say that those of us who attended, I think, learned a lot. I would say if you're thinking about doing this training next year or any other year, it is scheduled for the whole day, but if you can make the first 2 hours or even 1 hour, that's really the meat of it. A lot of it afterwards was sort of role-playing and discussing, but so just food for thought. If you have an hour next year, you want to check it out. I don't know if anyone else who was there had any comments on the training. All right, we'll move on to the January 16th Transportation Committee meeting.
So we had a meeting, this was last week, and Tom Kane, our new transportation director, I think that was his second week on the job. He didn't have a whole lot to report. And in terms of anything that he needed from us or, anything coming out of, his transition or whatnot, no real new bus safety concerns other than the normal stuff. We did spend quite a bit of time talking about the electric bus, and there were a few folks from the public there who did make some comments. All were in support of us purchasing an electric bus. Evan gave a presentation really going through, this is sort of his second round on this presentation, going through some of the numbers as it relates to cost of an electric bus compared to a gas bus, and sort of looking over the lifetime of the bus. What is the cost? What is the savings? I don't remember the exact number, unfortunately. It probably would be good to get that presentation out to folks at some point, but it was right around $275,000 of savings with the electric bus. I think some of the numbers are a little bit fuzzy on both sides of the, sort of both columns of the electric bus and the gas bus, but it's probably somewhere in that $200,000 savings over the life of a bus.
Which was 15 years, I think.
It was 15 years. So some of the challenge with the comparison is a gas bus is 10 years, electric bus is 15 years. So the committee did give a thumbs up to the idea of this being put in the budget, which is really up to Heidi and her team. And then it would obviously go to the finance committee, et cetera. So the public who were there were very supportive of the idea, and the committee was supportive. We had some other folks not on the committee there as well, so it's a good turnout.
Hudson?
And just for clarity, our district has not purchased Lion buses, correct?
Correct. We would not be looking at a Lion bus. I think it was either be a Thomas or a Bluebird. I can't remember which one we would be. I don't know if there was a decision about which one, although.
Current feed is Bluebird, right?
Same as what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever is easily maintained, I think, up in Augusta at O'Connor.
And doesn't leak.
And what?
And doesn't leak.
Doesn't leak, and you don't have to have somebody from Canada come down to fix it. It'd be kind of fun.
Okay, thanks, Bart. The January 16th board workshop. Most of you were there. It's always a good time with Steve Bailey. He brought the party with his Jeopardy game. And for the second year in a row, he gave us an idea that we're going to run with. Hopefully this will be more successful, but that's why we tabled the revisions to the board agenda. Item 6.6, the policy committee is going to take some time to work on the consent agenda, work that in. If you have any thoughts on that, when's your next policy meeting? I'm sure they'd love to have you join them for a discussion. I'm looking forward to the rollout. Did anyone else want to comment on the workshop? No. Okay, moving on. January 21st, Finance Committee meeting.
All right, thank you. First, before I get to the meeting, I just want to let everybody know, you probably realize that you have the white binders in front of everybody. So Evan brought those by for everyone this evening. They have, I actually haven't seen what's in those. They may have the presentations of the school, individual schools. If they do, perfect. We would hope they do. And then that was a week ago. And then the maintenance of effort budget is what was presented on the 21st. The maintenance of effort budget is basically taking everything that's current this year, pushing it forward to next year, and making assumptions about what those costs will be based on different inputs and things, to see what our budget, just if we were to push everything forward that we have right now, what would it cost to maintain that same level of services and things next year. With the revised version that is in the white binders that everybody got, or those of you on the committee, I think we all had little just handouts added for us here. You can quickly see that when you roll these numbers up, currently what it looks like is our maintenance of effort budget, so about a 7.1% increase over this year. When we look at what it is without debt service, it's about a 3.7%. Okay. Okay. We'll hold on that. If those may or may not be right. But it's, anyway, at this point, it's currently looking at what our anticipated costs would be to maintain current services. That's without any of the asks or additions that may come our way, or any opportunities for savings that Heidi will be looking to integrate into her budget proposal. So it's just kind of pushing forward where we are right now. So I mean, happy with where the process is at this point. I'm really been pleased with getting to see Evan's work, his knowledge, his desire and drive to really deliver for us. I think he's very hungry to do a great job, and I feel like he's doing a very good job with his first pass, and it's helping build a lot of confidence that he'll be able to help shepherd us kind of through what is undoubtedly going to be a challenging budget season. And speaking of that, we had one member of the public that was there that's shared with us some of the challenges that the town is seeing as well with their budgets, and it's just a difficult budget season, as we can all imagine. So We are still early in the process, but everybody's doing some good work and looking forward to hearing more as we go forward. If I missed something, please let me know, and we will be reviewing those numbers from the maintenance of effort budget as our first agenda item at next week's meeting, so we'll probably have some revised information soon.
Thank you, Ryan.
You know what?
Oh,
Sorry. I have
Go
one
for
more
it.
thing that I thought to myself I wanted to say, and that is we had a quick little discussion about digitizing this beast for next year. So that is something that we will all be efforting, hopefully making it more consumable, easier to organize and review, but more to come on that. So this may be a collector's item soon.
And then today's facilities committee meeting, it was a busy one.
Yeah, we had a lot to discuss. There was no public comment. We got an update on the Woodside exterior envelope assessment. This has been ongoing work. The CHA had another service come in and do an invasive analysis. So they ripped apart some siding, pulled back some siding, pulled back the gypsum board behind it, and just to see what's going on in some areas. And the way they identified some of these areas was one by chance, and another, there was a window leaking inside. So they just tested a couple of areas. They are noticing a little bit of water damage behind the siding. It feels like, maybe a better job could have been done in a siding project in 2011, I believe. That is the current siding. So it seems like we're looking at a siding project at some point in time. The facilities director, Sean Johansson's going to be working with setting up a meeting. I think it's scheduled for the 5th of February to get a preliminary budget on what siding would look like for Woodside, and what a project would look like there. We also have a $900,000 roof job coming up, scheduled for 2027, fiscal year 27. So there was conversation about, does that mean another bond? Because these are all significant expenses. So the good news, the siding is not nearly as bad as the middle school, so we don't have that kind of damage, not seeing that kind of damage behind the cladding and the gypsum sheathing, but just wanted to make you all aware that there is something coming down. Hope to have more. Next meeting is on the 13th of February, so probably a little more to speak to about that. As far as the envelope project for the middle school, you probably all got notice that it was a sprinkler issue that happened. It was a frozen valve that burst. Luckily, it happened near an entrance or a vestibule. They could direct all the water outside, so no major damage inside, likely caused by the current construction going on. So Sean's working with the contractor to see what can be done about that. As far as the work, phase 1 work is ongoing, tracking minor punch list items at most right now, and that's kind of the west and the north side of the building. The front of the building is phase 2. They're just starting to do mock-ups of the tall vertical panels, siding there. It's 27 feet tall, I believe. And there is that rippling or buckling or oil canning, as they say, that's happening. So they're trying to work through those issues to determine what's causing it. And we all want the school to look nice. So Sean's tracking that down with the contractor and the engineer and the manufacturer of the siding to resolve that so we don't get an awful looking product in the end. So if you see something up that looks a little funny, they're on it. They know about it. The facilities master plan is ongoing. We had, as everybody knows, likely I've reported in the past that CHA, Harriman, both candidates for the work. They were the only two firms that submitted. We're in the process of scoping it out. We have a $100,000 budget right now, and the work will likely cost more than $100,000 to do a facilities master plan. So Sean's working diligently to identify what that actual cost is, try to determine with the group if we need to phase our approach over multiple years, but really hoping that we can focus on a solid conditions assessment for our fiscal year, this fiscal year. And so we're going into fiscal year 26 budget season with some real data on our buildings. But just letting you know that we don't have a perfect answer for who's going to do the work yet. He's still working with both firms and some other options to identify how best and to cost effectively manage that and get it done. So more to come on that. District-wide site improvement planning. This is a continuation of the paving that was happening last summer. We want to do more paving at Williams Cone Playground area and the southeast parking lot at Woodside and the play area there. Those are kind of the two focus areas. Sean has been working with Harriman to design those areas and get that work scoped out so we can do it this summer. He also wants to do a paved walk behind the Bodenham Community School. I guess that's not in awesome shape. He's hoping to do that kind of as a separate aside thing. He doesn't need it designed. He just needs it to be redone. And I think we're going to work on some drainage issues also as this paving's getting done, improve some drainage at Woodside. That kind of tag along a student project that was done last year with Corey Scribner's class. They did a great job solving a small local problem, and I think they're going to kind of tie in that work and effort to what we're going to be doing for site improvements there. What else? Oh, fiscal year 26. You've heard most of this already. Right now, the finance committee's tracking a line item of 700,000 in next year's budget. We're currently showing, at least 600,000 in capital construction for fiscal year 26. So, and there's plenty of expenses into the future on that. So obviously more work than we have money for. So trying to meter that out. The bulk of it is half of that's in roofing projects. And then another 100,000 in flooring and, an ADA bathroom at Bodenham and some other stuff like intrusion alarms and, security, lock and key, continued work. I think that's all I have for ongoing stuff. There was a brief snippet of rooftop solar. Heidi reported last board meeting that, the meetings with Revision Energy and stuff. So that'll be coming to facilities, I believe, next meeting to have a discussion about that. And we have a couple of action items tonight on some facility modifications. So do you want me to talk about those? You want to handle it one at a time?
Yeah, we can go one at a time, but go for it.
All right.
Do you want?
So I've already reported out on both of these already, so we just officially have to follow up with the paperwork and approve them if everybody's on board with it. Sorry, I'm navigating to the onboard stuff now.
I can read it if you want.
No, I've got it. Thanks. The first one is let me see, Lauren Walkinson. It's the trail project by the middle school. She wants to do a boardwalk with interpretive signs. Got a grant to do the work, to supply the materials. Hopefully it's, a student and volunteer effort to advance that. So that's a no cost. And it's a grant, just under $1,500 grant to do that project. So does anybody want to know more outside the project review or cover sheet that's?
Well, let's consider that a motion to approve it. Approve the Lauren Watkinson's facilities request, and Ryan has just seconded it. So now we'll take questions or vote. Ready to vote? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And then we can go into 7.7.2.
I will present a motion to accept the facilities modification request for Harpswell Community School as outlined in your board packet to put in 2 walkways. And again, the costs shouldn't be anything to the school because we have a really, I'm looking for a name, I apologize, Michelle Lane. She's been very active with some contractors in the community to get that work done at no cost to the school. So anyway.
All right, so we have the
motions.
motion
Second.
and seconded by Ryan. Anybody have any questions?
I would just like to make one comment just to add to the information Andy shared, and the contractor in the community, just as I have appreciation, want to make sure they're named so everybody can recognize the fact that they are helping support this, is R.A. Weber and Sons. So thank you for that team there for their support.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
It's also Midcoast Paving is going to donate the paving. So just want to get that plug in there as well.
Thank
yes.
you. Anything else, Andy? You're good? Okay. Hudson?
Before we move on to the superintendent report, I just wondering if I can make a brief comment about the ACAB and ACAA policies, based on the public comment we got tonight.
Okay.
Just want to say that we will be looking at those with our legal counsel, as we always will when it comes to legally required policies. But that our current ACAA-2020 and ACAB-2020 in their introductory language make clear that if a school needs to be following that procedure, to follow that procedure. So but by the fact that we have both policies in place, the language within the policies gives clear directive to follow it. So we shouldn't have a problem in the immediate term until we finalize with legal what our revisions will be.
I agree. And I'll say it again. We are aware of the legal change. We are going to follow the current policy that's the law. We have policy that corresponds to that, and the policy committee is going to clean up in an appropriate way, which is not voting to rescind our votes, but you will bring it to us in a cleaned up fashion. Thank you. So then, yep, next is Heidi's superintendent's report.
So, just to touch a little bit on our meeting with Revision Energy, Sean and I met this week with Tina Meserve, who was the former superintendent of Farmington School District, or the Mount Blue School District. It's RSU 9, I think. And she's so excited that we're looking into the possibilities of bringing solar energy to our district. And the first step really is for Sean to draw up a proposal of what buildings we think will actually be available to house or roof on the rooftops of the solar panels, the arrays as they're called. So that's the first step. And then she will come to the facilities meeting, I believe on the 13th is the next facilities meeting, and do the presentation and talk with anybody there. So I invite anyone that would like to hear about that come. She is extremely knowledgeable. So I'm really excited about that. The other thing is we have a couple of people who are retiring and people that I worked with many years ago when I was a teacher at Mount Airy High School. First one is Carmen Palmer is retiring. She's taught math.
Sorry.
Oh,
you're done.
sorry.
You're done. No, I just want to speak to that when you're done. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And she has been there she's taught at Mount Airy High School, 35 years. Holy, which means I'm probably like right behind her that I've been doing this as well. So she's really been in education for 41 years total, and now she is going to retire, and she just wants to thank everybody. And I just wish Carmen all of the best and thank you for her years of service to MSAD 75.
And now I'd like to. So Carmen Palmer was my high school math teacher. She was one of the two coaches of my high school math team that I was on for all 4 years. I'm very sad that my children won't have Carmen Palmer teach them. I'm glad my nephew gets to have Carmen Palmer teach him. She's amazing. I wish you the best, Carmen, in your retirement. Congratulations.
And the next person that we have that is retiring is Lisa Walker, who has taught for 41 years herself in math, high school math. And then the last 25 of them have been at MSAD 75. And again, she's really excited to embark on new adventures. She's really going to miss the chapters of her life here at MSAD 75. But again, congratulations to Lisa and thank you for your service to MSAD 75 and students of all of our community. And that's all.
That's it. All right, great. And then we have the calendar listed, and I believe that's it. We're adjourned. Thank you.